Hello guys, welcome back. We're so excited to have you here. Last time we talked, we ended in a kind of sad note, but there's so many things that happened throughout these months that we just can't wait to tell you. And we have some exciting and good news to tell you at the end of these videos, so stay tuned.
Also, make sure you like, subscribe. Also, please share this video with anyone that you know that you think may want to have babies in the future, may need to be doing surrogacy in the future, or is currently thinking about it or doing it now. We would definitely love to get this information to their hands to help them out as well.
Okay, let's get this video started. Okay, so where we ended, we had our first miscarriage. We really made us very sad for a couple months, and sadly we had to leave Colombia without having any results after 4 months of being there and really trying, really going back to square one. But at the end of that stressful time, we decided to go with the same surrogate. We say, okay, this is the first transfer, let's just try another time.
It takes a couple of weeks though, because she has to get back on her cycle, she has to get back on the medication, everything like that. So between transfers, you can't just go the next week and try again.
Yeah, it takes like a couple months. Like I would say it took us around 2 months.
2 months, I think,
between the time we had the miscarriage and the time we can do another transfer.
So at that time, we said, okay, let's go ahead and do this. It had been 2 months, we got everything ready, and we did the second transfer. And it was really exciting, you know, kind of a lot of the same process that we went through in the last video, the same kind of transferring process and waiting and anticipating and trying not to think about it every single day, but also
it's so hard.
Still thinking about it every single day and having dreams about it and all these kinds of things, right? So we're all anxious and all that kind of stuff, and we took the pregnancy test a couple weeks after doing the transfer, and she was pregnant, and we were really excited. You know, we were excited, but also trying not to get our hopes up. You know, I think the first attempt was a little bit of a wake-up call for us, and realized, okay, this might not be, you know, as easy as we thought. And so, but still being hopeful, you know, and trying to keep, you know, our good energies out and praying and all that kind of stuff. So, but it was getting really close to the time when we had lost the first embryo, the first baby, and so we were getting really anxious. So we said, we got to get our mind off this stuff. Let's go hiking, let's go on a camping trip, something like that, where we have no phone service. and so we did. And then we were there for just like 2 days basically. And then we were heading back home, and Hako got a text message.
So we got a text message, and she basically said, hey, yesterday I started bleeding again, but I don't think it's like last time. I didn't bleed as much. It wasn't as much blood. So honestly, we kind of were sad immediately because we knew what happened last time that happened, and it was to the day, like Carl said, it was around 16 days since the transfer. So
which is exactly what happened the first time. Exact
so
day.
we're like, well, we have some hope, but it's not, you know, the highest, right? We were trying to keep up, but it was discouraging for sure. So she had to wait for the first ultrasound for them to find out if she was pregnant or not. And during that time, we really couldn't wait because she was feeling bad. She was really feeling down. So we went ahead and paid for a private doctor to just check her blood levels. And it was very obvious. Her levels went from being very high to almost minimal. So that really gave it away. I was like, there's no way
that she's pregnant.
That she's pregnant. And I tested the results, and the doctor confirmed it, our doctor, and he said, yeah, she's not pregnant anymore. So that was pretty discouraging, having a second transfer very close to the first one.
It was very discouraging, and you would think it might get easier, but it actually doesn't get easier. In fact, I think it might have felt it was even harder. I think just because, you know, it had taken several months between the first miscarriage and, you know, building all this up again and going through this whole process again. And it's just more anticipation, you know, when you're anticipating something or feeling anxious about something, it just makes it tough, you know, makes time go so slowly. And so then it was just really defeating, to be honest, to feel like, oh, okay, now we're back to square one again, you know. And at this point, it had already been how many months since we started?
Like August. We started in January, and it
was already in August. Yeah, and so, yeah, this felt very discouraging. But at the same time, we just said, well, we can either sit here and, be sad about it or we can look forward, and take action and do something and move forward, right? And that's really the only option we really had, so that's what we did, right? But we did have to have a pretty tough conversation with each other, kind of figure out, okay, are we gonna still stick with the same surrogate, or are we gonna maybe find a new surrogate? And so
we knew we wanted to follow through with the process. That was no question in our mind about it. But we had to make the decision, maybe we need to change our surrogate. Maybe there's just not a match. We had that conversation, and then we were on the look for a new surrogate, and also being very worried about our embryos.
Because we didn't have any more embryos. We weren't sure, actually.
We weren't sure. We had 2 liable embryos that we knew for sure they were good, and those are the ones we used. And the other one that we had was undefined, didn't really see if they have any defects or anything like that. So we were like, okay, what do we do? Because they literally just gave us a report of 3 embryos, and
very little
that's all we had. So it was like, do we only have these embryos, or do we also have some other eggs that we can fertilize? So we weren't
because
sure.
We knew we got a lot of eggs from our egg donor, so we figured we should have a lot more than 2 embryos here. But when we called, they basically told us, no, we don't have any more eggs. And we were like,
so scared.
What do you mean there's no more eggs? We had 2 embryos from like 30 eggs, 40 eggs, something like that. And so we were really confused and really scared and like in a panic, really, because we're like, what are we gonna do? We can't ask our egg donor to go all the way back to Colombia, donate again, that's not gonna happen. And so we were very stressed for a few days.
So stressed, and then I literally called so many people in the clinic.
He called everyone at the clinic
to find out, to make sure that that was true. And it ended up being that, the person that we talked to, she was new, so she didn't really know the whole procedure, that we've been there for about a year. So we talked to the main doctor, and he let us know, hey, don't worry, we do have some frozen eggs, so we can fertilize when the time comes. That really made us very relaxed. It was like,
that was a huge weight off our shoulders, because it was frustrating that happened, that we were given that wrong information. But at the end of the day, we're like, whatever. At least we have the eggs, and we can make more embryos.
You can't really be picky in a different country. It doesn't work the same way. So we just want to get through the process.
I will say though, we did, as you guys know, we've done everything on our own from beginning to end. It would probably be very beneficial to have somebody that's representing you, that's able to have these conversations with the clinics, that's able to know what's going on. Somebody in Colombia that can kind of be on the front lines for you, so to speak. So definitely keep that in mind.
So now we had to find the surrogate. So thankfully, I have found a couple of contacts, a very good friend in Bogota that was helping me.
Hako's got all the contacts. It really helped a lot.
She really has helped me a lot finding our surrogates. So we found the first one through her, and then I let her know. I was like, hey, we haven't talked for a couple months because, we were doing the process. But I texted her like, hey, I need your help again. I need to find
we need a new surrogate.
I just don't know where to even start. And immediately, for a couple of days, she's like, hey, I have this friend of mine.
Within days, she found us somebody.
So I was like, okay, perfect. Let me interview her. We went ahead and we jumped on a Zoom call with her, and she was pretty nice. She was very, she was young as well, but she was a very, very nice person, right?
Yeah.
So we got the green light. We're like, hey, we like you. We want to do the process with you. She had to now do the process with the clinic to make sure that they also give the green light. But every time she would go to the clinic, it would be a headache.
It was such a headache. It was honestly a nightmare. So she wanted to go to the clinic. We called the clinic, let them know, hey, we have a new surrogate. We decided to change surrogates. We need her to come get her testing done, make sure, she's okay to go. And they said, okay, great, give her our phone number, we'll call her, we'll set it up. Nothing happened. There was no contact. So our surrogate called the clinic, reached out to them. So finally they gave her an appointment 2 weeks out. And we're like, 2 weeks? Why is it taking so long? So she finally goes into the clinic, and they do some medical test, something, but they said, oh, there's some inflammation or something, so we need you to come back. We need to do the test again. So she's like, okay. And they said, come back in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, right? They're like, well, we're busy. And I'm like, oh, I'm okay. I get it, they're busy. The clinics we're using is
pretty busy.
Very busy. They're one of the most popular clinics in Colombia for this. So they left. She comes back 3 weeks later. She arrives. She's like, okay, I'm here to redo the test. Like, oh, we don't do those tests on Thursdays. Like, then why did you schedule me for a Thursday? It was very frustrating for all of us. Meanwhile, she's getting taxis to get to the clinic, going back home. It's not super close for her, so it was extremely frustrating. I think literally took like 2 months, maybe, right?
Yeah,
of her going every couple of weeks to finally for them just to tell us she wasn't going to work, that we can't use her. And so it was just a lot of what felt like wasted time for us, which was very frustrating. But that's Colombia. For you.
By this time it was already November, so it was almost a year that we've been doing this process and still no progress. Right?
Yeah.
We're still at square one, not having a surrogate, not having an embryo yet, so we're literally like in the beginning of the process.
So thankfully, right after they told us that, Haco's Connect there in Colombia found us another surrogate within literally like 2 days later. I think maybe a day later. She was like, hey, you know what? Actually, I was talking to my sister. She's really interested in being a surrogate. So we're like, great, let's meet her, right? And so we met our friend's sister, on Zoom. She was awesome. Introduced her to her whole family, her kids, her mother-in-law, everything, right? And she was just really great, and it was definitely a good fit for us. But once again, we needed the clinic to give us the green light, except this time we learned from our experience last time. And so we told her, okay, look, these are the tests they're gonna run. These are what they're gonna need to know. Can you go to your own doctor, your personal physician, and get these tests run real quick, and then just bring them to the clinic? She's like, oh, absolutely. So she got it done that week, went into the clinic, showed them the results. They were like, this is great. They did their own quick scans that they needed to do. They're like, everything looks great. And so right away they said, okay, we can start doing fertilizing the eggs, right? And get you on her medication. So there we were. It had been almost exactly a year since we had started the process, and we were ready to do our third transfer with our new surrogate and with our new batch of embryos, actually. And so they did fresh transfer this time. The first ones they did freeze. These ones they did a fresh transfer. Well, the eggs had been frozen, but the embryos were fresh. And so they did the transfer of the embryo. This time, we didn't know the gender because there was no time, because they weren't freezing them. There was no time to do those tests to find out the gender. The first two transfers we knew. The first one was a boy, the second one was a girl. This time we was just like nature. We were like, we don't know what we're gonna have, but either way, we'll be happy. We just want a beautiful, healthy young baby, right? And so they did the transfer. And we felt good, but again, weren't trying to get our hopes up, because we've been, over the past year kind of realizing.
This third time felt very different. We weren't thinking about it every single day. I feel like because we've been through the process 2 times before, and when you got the pregnancy test, she actually also took it early. So she found out. Kyle didn't want to know, but he eventually wanted me to tell him.
Yeah.
But then the clinic confirmed it. Yeah, we were pregnant, and we were so excited. Okay, we're excited, but still, until those 2 more weeks pass, we don't want to, think much of it. We want to make sure that we're not so emotionally attached yet, right?
But those couple weeks actually passed by pretty quick, pretty seamlessly. And then she was ready for the first ultrasound. Okay,
so we were getting ready for our first ultrasound. The date that the last miscarriage happened already passed. That was like on a Tuesday.
A huge wait that we felt like, we made it past that.
We already passed. We're not that much stress. And then, we're getting closer. The ultrasound is on Monday, and we had to wait until the weekend. So now we had only the weekend away. And literally in the weekend, I got a text message from her. She was like, hey, I was sitting down and I bled a little bit. And it was so scary.
Oh my God.
We thought we were over that.
It was
we passed that hurdle a long time ago. And I was like, okay, how was the bleeding? Asking all these questions. But this time we were so familiar with the miscarriage and how the blood looks and all these things. Honestly, the way she described like her bleeding, and it was very little, I don't know why I felt more relaxed. I was like, that doesn't sound like a miscarriage. That probably sounds like, some leftover
spotting or something like that, and because the first 2 times there was significant amount of blood, and it wasn't, it was like clots, and there was some like she described, almost like mucusy kind of clots in the blood. This time was not like that. It was just some little spotting in in her underwear and things like that. So we were scared, obviously still, but still optimistic. So we're like, take the weekend, relax, try not to be too active or stressed or anything like that. So it was really scary and nerve-wracking, but
I would say though this time it really didn't take our hopes up as much as the second miscarriage because of the description. Like the second one, she did say it was clogged, so I
it felt different.
It's like, oh, this happened. But this time was such a spotting. So we got to Monday and we were so nervous because like, oh my God, I hope they can see something. We don't know what's gonna happen, and I just wanted little results. So.
Yeah, we were just hoping to hear a heartbeat, hoping to, see the embryos, hope something. So we weren't sure what the clinic planned on giving us or sending us about that ultrasound. So thankfully our surrogate filmed pretty much the whole thing for us and sent us the video, which was really cool. And it was amazing.
And for the first time we got to hear the embryo's heartbeat, which is for the first time of this process for about a year. We got to hear the little heartbeat and see the little rise.
It was like the faintest little heartbeat, but you could see the little lines. We couldn't really even hear it. You could see it on the chart though, and it's just this tiny little size of like a grain of rice, right? But even that was just
really
amazing to see. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the longest we got into the process, so we definitely feel renewed. We're like, okay, this is gonna happen, right?
Our little peanut.
And then after that, once you find out you're pregnant, that's when you have to wait another 2 weeks. It's every 2 weeks that they do ultrasounds in the beginning to make sure that everything's going good.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to wait 2 weeks to see that the embryo was a good liable embryo. Sometimes you could be pregnant, but it could be outside the uterus. So they have to make sure in the next 2 weeks that it is good, a liable embryo. And that was another 2 weeks that we had to be scared and wait until
so worried,
hopefully that we pass this hurdle, but then we have the next obstacle and we're like, oh my God, just praying all day. Be like, okay, hopefully I know it's gonna work. And then we got to that 2 weeks and everything was doing great. We got to see now it's amazing how they grow so
fast. Oh my gosh, it's crazy how fast they grow in there. Just between the first ultrasound and the second ultrasound, it was already like tripled, quadrupled in size, something like that, right? It's obviously still a little alien thing in there, but you could start to see, like a little head, and a little tail, and it was just so crazy and amazing. And life is just a miracle. and it was just awesome to see, and we were just so excited. And then at that point we were just like, okay, so now what's next? What do we do? And they basically told us they were gonna do some tests.
Yeah, so the next couple steps was to do the genetic testing, make sure that everything genetically was good. So that was another thing.
They test for the Down syndrome and the lots of different genetic diseases.
Make sure that the baby is coming good.
They also test for the gender at that point as well. So
yeah, so we didn't want to tell anybody yet. It was so
that we were
early
pregnant.
Still. We were like 6 weeks pregnant by that time, and we just wanted to wait until the test came back, and we knew it was good.
And we wanted to wait till after the first trimester because they say that's when you're in the red zone, the biggest risk is in that first trimester. So we really wanted to wait. Okay, let's wait till we get through the first trimester, just because of everything that happened the first 2 times, and wait till we had those results back, everything like that. So thankfully, the results actually came back literally a day before the first trimester ended, right? Or within the same week of the first trimester being complete.
By that time, you also got to see the 12-week ultrasound, which was very, very exciting. You can barely see him. He was moving a lot for 12 weeks.
Rolling over.
He was rolling. We got to see him, but we were so excited. We're like, okay, we're full-on pregnant.
We're actually pregnant.
This is happening. And we also got the test results the day before, the day after, that was the first day that we felt relief. It was the day that we find out, okay, we're done with the first trimester, which is the most dangerous trimester, you know, the most possibilities of miscarriage, the farther we ever been, and also we got the test result, making sure that everything was good. So we finally kind of like breathe and like, okay,
we're comfortable telling people.
We're pregnant, like we're like now it's actually happening. We're gonna have a baby, and that's the amazing news we have. We're finally pregnant after 3 times and a year and a half, but we made it happen. So if you're gonna take something,
we along with a lot of doctors' helps and God's help and a lot
everything
of
helps.
all of you guys sending your good energies our way. And
but if you're gonna take something from this video, is persistency. It's not always gonna happen in the first trial, but that's okay. You just keep trying and try it, and it will eventually happen. We're so grateful for you guys' time. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for following our journey.
If you want to have more live updates with everything that's going on, definitely follow us on Instagram. We're definitely been posting kind of as things have been happening more in live time there, now that we've made the announcement and everything. So we'll link our Instagram handles in the description, but follow us along on that journey there too, as well as here. We're excited to, you know, go through these next couple of months with you guys, do some baby shower and traveling back to Colombia to receive the baby and all that fun stuff. So definitely make sure you stick around and keep going on this journey with us.